Hello everybody. I figured y'all would have questions on the last video I made on the controls, so welcome to a semi uh, in-depth version of that control video. So let's go ahead and just jump into it real quick, because people talk too much. So first thing, steering sensitivity 100, inner dead zone is 20 to get rid of any stick drift. I'll explain this in a little bit, but for your controls, horizontal, I run with 12 and 10. You could do like 10 and 12, so vice versa. Just switch these around. You could do 14 and 16 as long as they're two numbers apart, because vertical sensitivity is faster than horizontal because recoil control. And then zoom sensitivity reduction, probably have that at 2 because it definitely does help when you use scopes. And then as far as a couple of people's questions about which ones do I make odd, which ones do I make even, well, here's your example. You put your regular sensitivity, so that means just your base sensitivity of moving around, just going left, right, without any ADS whatsoever. You want all of that to be even. And then the odd is whenever the turning bonus comes in, because basically this is your speed with which you're going to be tracking targets. It's the speed with which your Karoshi operates off of. There's no turning bonus or anything that's applied to that specific thing. So you want your regular sensitivity for horizontal and vertical to be an even number, and then your turning bonuses to be an odd number. And these ones I found work the best. They give me the most responsiveness. Just a little side note. And then for the third person, like when you're in a vehicle, so on and so forth, I just did it this way because it's a lot easier to move the camera around whenever it's roughly the same as your standard control speed. Now, gameplay, light aim assist, because if you have regular aim assist, it's literally going to drag your freaking reticle across the screen, so don't do that. Just put it on light. And then standard additive camera motions, you want that so that way you know when you're actually performing an action, because otherwise it's just going to look completely ridiculous. And weapon sway, I don't know if anybody understands exactly what this is or what this does, but this is on the camera setting. So this is where the actual camera moves in multiple different directions at a random rate. And then if I switch it to the weapon, your camera literally stays still, but your weapon moves, and it's a lot harder to hit targets. So that'll kind of help you with that. And then third person, you always want high, because otherwise it looks ridiculous. Pretty much you don't really need any of these things on, except for mainly analytics, so that way CDPR knows whenever their game completely takes a shit and crashes. Turn all of these off, because otherwise you'll get flashbanged from time to time, especially with lens flare. And then for all of this stuff, hit indicator, definitely. Damage and threat indicator, yes, so you know actually where you're getting seen from. Basically you can just have all this stuff on. Now as far as the controls, so let me explain what exactly this does. I know it does give you an explanation, but let me explain exactly what it means. When you have it at 1, which is where I have it now, you can see that if I barely move my stick, I'm able to sit there and track targets just like this. I'm able to track people going around a lot easier. I'm able to sit there and just stay on him the whole time. And no, I don't have some sort of cheating garbage like Cronus N or Cronus Max where I can just aim on everything and it just snaps to it. It's just target tracking. But essentially, if I turn this down, so say I turn it down to 80, right? Doesn't seem like much, but it is, because now every little bit is a lot harder to manage because it's very, very jerky. And then if I turn it down even further, then you'll see a major difference, especially whenever I just turn. Because you see I'm turning like this. Now if I go over here and turn this all the way down to 50, it reaches maximum input of any direction I want very quickly, and you can see the turning bonus activate right before it moves, and it's very disorienting. So if you actually want to have decent target tracking in this game, make sure you have this at 1, or else your game's going to feel way too jerky. Then you'll end up messing with these, and then you're going to end up messing with these, and you're just going to screw everything up. So just leave that at 1, put these to whatever, and then all you have to do with this is if you put these higher, like say I were to put this to 16, right? And say I were to put this to 14. Then I would have to sit here and go through every single 1 point whatever or 2 point whatever to figure out exactly what gives me the best responsiveness, but it has to be an odd number. It cannot be an even number. These have to be even numbers, not odd numbers. So that's basically it with the controls. Now, little side note on how to keep your game from basically taking a shit and crashing and everything else. Basically, you have to treat this game like it's an ADHD e-girl with daddy issues. Essentially, whenever you're running through the game and it sits there and auto-saves all the time, make sure whenever you get to a new area, or before you use a fast travel point, or before you go into essentially any area where there's like a gig or a side job or a main objective, like go to Mega Building H8 for this quest. Before you do any of that stuff, make sure you save it, delete all the autosaves, and then load the actual manual save that you just did, reload that save, so that way everything runs smoothly for a while. Now, every once in a while, unfortunately, because this game still doesn't have the load that it deserves, essentially after a certain amount of time, your game will just decide to essentially yeet itself off of a bridge and completely crash, and you'll be returned back to your dashboard. So essentially, this is to not exactly prevent it from happening, but to keep it from happening to a minimum. Basically, it will still happen regardless of what you do, just because the coding in this game really isn't exactly the best, and you'll see that because the render distance in this game is completely garbage. But basically, if you do the whole save and load game thing, if you do that, it's going to keep your crashes to an absolute minimum. Sometimes I could go days of playing this while doing that without it crashing once. So really, it's all up to, essentially, your mileage may vary, so to speak. So there's a semi-in-depth guide on controls, how to keep your game from basically yeeting itself off of a bridge. And then another thing, I don't exactly remember where it is, but here's a little side note in case if anybody wants to send this clip, well, this part of the video, to a CDPR rep or developer. But in the mission, and honestly, if you haven't played this game already, then what are you doing with your life? Basically, there's a part of the main story in this game where you have to meet Takemura on the market, where you go up the elevator and there's a market above you on the bridge thing or whatever, right below Hanako Arasaka's float. Basically, when you're doing that mission, I found that basically if you don't save it before you go there and then you go somewhere else after you talk to Takemura, then essentially you won't be able to double jump if you have the reinforced tendons, you won't be able to charge jump, and you won't be able to pull out your weapon if you travel to another area without essentially reloading that whole area with the market up top and everything else. If you have to save it before you enter that area, or else you're going to get the bug where you can't jump, you can't heal, you can't pull out any weapons, you can't open your vehicle menu, you can't even open your phone. So that's a little side note bug. So there you go. Thanks for watching. If you want to sub, you can. If you want to like and share, cool. It's up to you. Peace.